Jai Sri Krishna. Having described the various karma classified under each varn, we have four varn, and what are the karmas for each varn, Bhagavan described. Now he is telling how we can attain our place with Ishwar while following our varna dharma. Please remember, varn does not mean the caste system. Caste system is what people made on their own, but varn is not caste system. Is like a division of labor. In any business, you have division of labor. Some people do one type of job, other people do other kind of job. So here in Srishti, in this creation, Maya is in charge, and Maya is got responsibility to run the whole show, everything. So to run the show, four varn were created. So some people will be doing like teaching, some people will be doing Kshatriya work, some people will be doing Vaishya work, Vanij or business, and some people will be doing service sector jobs. That's all it is. There's no caste system. It is our duty to the society and it is based on our past karma. So let us see what Bhagavan is saying about the way we can achieve this goal of reaching Param Siddhi in the next two shlokas. So Bhagavan says, in chapter 2, Shlok 5, we saw that Arjun says to Bhagavan, surely I consider it to be auspicious to live on alms or bhiksha in this world, rather than slaying these noble elders, gurus, because having killed them, we shall after all enjoy only blood-stained pleasures in the form of wealth and sense object enjoyment. So that's what Arjun said. So Bhagavan is telling here, Bhagavan now telling in next shlok,
स्वे स्वे कर्मण्यभिरतः संसिद्धिं लभते नरः स्वकर्मनिरतः सिद्धिं यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु.
So Bhagavan is telling Arjun, now you listen to me. Sway say, everyone's karma is ascertained according to their guna. For example, a person may be drafted to fight in a war, but unless he has the guna of a soldier, he may not be able to fight as a soldier sometimes. However, he will not be able to do this on a regular basis. He can go, you draft the person to go fight. He doesn't know how to fight. It's not in his, what they call it, not his blood. He doesn't have that guna to fight. So he can go fight once in a while, but not on a regular basis. If someone has the guna of cook, for example, upon joining the army, he will work as a cook for the armed forces. He will cook the food. So Bhagavan says, Swese karmana abhiratah nara. So that's the shlok. A person attains the highest perfection, Param Siddhi. Highest perfection. This now you hear from me. How can person attain that? By following his own dharma, his own karma. So whatever karma one has been given by the Prakriti, or whichever karma one has ascertained by their swabhav. So remember last time we talked swabhav. Swabhav is the culmination of all our karmas in the past. That makes our swabhav. Whatever karma we do, it becomes our swabhav, our nature. It's like if you're doing something repeatedly, you will get perfection. It becomes your second nature. You will do it without any effort. So, following that swabhav, one can attain the highest perfection. One can, however, adopt a varna other than his own. Bhagavan says one may be born like a kshatri, but sometime he may be able to adopt another varna. Like Vishwamitra changed to Brahman. He was kshatri, but he changed to Brahman. He did tap and followed the path of Rishi Vasishtha. But Menika sent by Indra destroyed his tap and he could not become Indra. However, afterwards, he did not fight and adopted the path of peace. So he became a Brahman. So one can always adopt another varna's dharma. So one can achieve the ultimate siddhi while following his own karma. He need not adopt others' karma. He should understand that he has been given this karma by Paramatma. This has been clarified in the next shlok.
Yatah pravrittirbhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha.
Yatah, from whom, meaning Parameshwar. Pravritti, from whose pravritti, the origin, from where this originated. What originated? Bhutanam. All of the beings originated. They are born. And yen, by whom idam sarvam. Idam sarvam, this entire jagat, sansar, tatam, is created and pervaded. Manava, man, tam abhyacharya, worshipping him, swakarmana, with his own natural karma, siddhim vindati, enters the highest perfection. So Bhagavan says that man has been performing karma and will continue to do so. However, by making a slight change, when a man or woman worships the Parameshwar with their natural karma, swakarmana, they can enter the highest perfection. Now we'll take two examples. One old-fashioned one and the other one contemporary one, the modern views. In the ancient times, when a wife used to consider her husband as everything and always perform karma with mind, speech and body according to her husband's directions. Similarly, when a person understanding the Parameshwar as everything, if a person understands that Parameshwar is everything, and he constantly thinking of him, does his swabhavik karma, whatever his natural karma is, for only Parameshwar, just does it only for Parameshwar, not for himself or anybody else, with mind, speech and body, that is worshipping the Parameshwar. So that's one example how you worship Parameshwar. So first condition is you have to agree that you have to accept that He is everything. And then whatever you do only for Him in His name and with mind, body and speech. That becomes worship of Parameshwar. For the current environment, we will take an example of a physician who works to earn his livelihood, but later he started doing the job of the Naam and converted his practice of medicine for the welfare of all. Now he is doing the same but for the service to humanity in the name of Parameshwar. Now he is doing with no personal or hetu or motive or causation. So the karma is the same, but its mode has changed. This is called channelizing of the mind. Your mind is flowing in one channel and you move it to the other side. So from sansar, you move it to Paramatma. Doing the same thing. You don't make any change in your swabhavik karma, but you're doing it for different reason, for different purpose, for Paramatma. So worship the Creator, the Parameshwar, with your swabhavik karma. So karmana. Do not leave your karma. Just channelize it towards Parameshwar. This is what Bhagwan is telling Arjun. Do not give up your karma of a Kshatri and become sannyasi. Stand up and fight, but do it in my name. So he's doing the same thing and he is good at it. He is best as Kshatri. He cannot beg in alms and go live like a monk. So his swabhav is such that he will be fighting, the Kshatri. He is born with it. So Bhagavan says, you do that, but do it in my name, with my permission. So in the next shlok, Bhagavan admires following the Swadharma. He is telling why Swadharma is good. And he is admiring the concept of Swadharma, following your own dharma.
Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushritat swabhavaniyatam karma kurvannapnoti kilvisham.
The same thing was said by Bhagwan in Shlok 35 of chapter 3, where he said, there Bhagwan said, Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharma tishtritat swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhavavaha. He says that compared to the dharma of another, no matter how well performed it is, your own dharma is far better even though it is performed imperfectly. Even death in the performance of one's own dharma brings blessedness, kalyan. Following the dharma of another brings fear instead. So here Bhagavan, he has told Arjun that if you follow your dharma, you die fighting this war, you will be blessed because you followed your own dharma. If you want to follow the dharma of a sannyasi, which is not your dharma, that will create problem for you. And here Bhagavan has gone one step further in this shlok. He says, Swa nushtitat, well performed, par dharmat, dharma of another one, viguna, though imperfect, here it means that it does not bring about rise in the status in sansar. Viguna here means it doesn't bring you, elevates you in sansar. If you perform some your dharma, it doesn't elevate you in sansar. It don't make you very important person in this world. Okay? One's own dharma, shreyan, is superior to or will lead one to Shreya. Shreya, that's what Arjun is after. He said, I want to know what is Shreya for me and doing what is Shreya for me, not pray. So here Bhagavan says, Shreyan is superior and will lead to Shreya. What will lead to Shreya? Following your own dharma. Why? Because Swabhavi niyatam karma kurvan. While performing swadharma karma decided by one's own swabhav niyatam, decided by swabhav, karma kurvan, while you performing that karma which is decided by your own swabhav, na apnoti kilvisham. One, in doing that, one incurs no evil, no sin. So, now how we can relate this message to Bhagavan, okay? This message of Bhagavan, how can we relate ourselves to? Let us say a person received training in some profession. He worked in it for several years. However, he did not make much money. Naturally, he looks around and sees what appears to be people making lots of money in business and are considered successful. Everybody says, look how successful this person is. He's doing so good. And this poor fellow, he's doing his subhav karma and he's not, nobody even notices him. It's not that he is starving, he's living, everything is fine, but he wants to be noticed. So he thinks of getting into some business like the others are doing. Here Bhagavan is saying, Shreyan Swadharma Viguna. Your Swadharma, even though it is destitute of merit, Viguna, is superior to another's meritorious dharma. Here the word Vigun means without merit in the eyes of the sansar. It doesn't mean it doesn't have any merit, but in the eyes of the sansar. So here now you look at this way, you have sansar and you have parmarg, which is Ishwar marg. So in sansar, it's not recognized. You're not recognized as much as a very successful person. Person doesn't mean that you are not successful in Parmarg or Ishwar marg, because you are following the covenants which are made by Ishwar. So as long as you follow that, in his eyes you are successful. In sansar's eye, you may not be successful. In sansar, so even though your dharma is viguna, without any merit, without any gun, in the eyes of sansar, from its standard, from sansar's standard. Remember, there is only prayer in what is considered as success in sansar. There is no shreya in sansar. Only prayer. Pray means you get worldly things, enjoy worldly things. That is prayer. So Arjun wanted to know in doing what there is Shreya. So here again Bhagavan is saying Shreyan Swadharma Viguna, because Swabhav Niyatam Karma, the karma decided in accordance with your Swabhav, Kurvanna Apnoti Kilvisham, practicing it results in no sin or evil. So Bhagavan is cautioning Arjun not to leave his Swadharma. An excellent example of this can be found in our own body. Our senses have their assigned duty. You can say they have swabhavik karma. Eyes, their swabhav is to see. The swabhav of ear is to hear. Swabhav of the nose is to smell, etc., etc. If all these senses decided to do the work of another one, they say, well, this I can see. Why don't nose say, I want to see too? Eye is very important to people. Well, so nose say, I want to see also. I don't want to smell. Because you smell all kind of foul smell a lot of times. They say, no, I want to just see. And ear says, I want to just smell. So if they all do others, try to do other swabhavik karma, others karma, if all these senses decide to do the work of another, our body will not function. So, paradharma bhayavaha. So man can only reach perfection by practicing swadharma, your own dharma, your own swabhavik karma, whatever is your natural, because it comes naturally to you. If somebody is good in something, they are born with the talent, they don't have to make much effort. They'll do just like that. Whereas other person has got to make a lot of effort to do anything in the other people's work. So that is important. Swadharma is important. So when it's natural to you, you don't have to make much effort. It comes easy. And then what happens? You have more time to do other things. You can just finish your job in just quickly and get something else done. So in the next shlok, Bhagavan prohibits the renunciation of Swadharma. Swadharma should not be renunciated. You must follow your own dharma. The next shlok is
Sahajam karma kaunteya sadoshamapi natyajet sarvarambha hi doshena dhumena
here Bhagavan says Sahajam karma, that those karma which are born with us, sahaj. Saha means with and ja means janma. Those are born with us, sahaj. It's also called sahaj swabhav, meaning born or the karma which we are born with. Such karma, kaunteya sadoshimapi na tyajet. Hey Kunti Putra, hey Arjun, even though it has a measure of evil, one should not relinquish it, since it is their dutiful karma. Because it says, Sarvarambha, in the beginning of every karma, doshen avrita. It has some imperfection. Even like, he gives example here, like smoke is with fire. So we consider fire as symbol of purity. You purify things putting into the fire. We compare it with Gyan. Gyan and Agni. Gyan is like Agni. So we compare fire with Gyan. But it too is enveloped by smoke. Where there is fire, smoke has got to be there. You cannot have. When you start a fire, the smoke starts first, then the fire kicks in. So Bhagavan says that every karma has, no matter how pious it is laced with some impurity. So one should not relinquish the karma they are born with. It will come to them naturally without much effort. So we should follow whatever varna karma we are born with. Thus, when a Kshatriya kills someone in the righteous war, not just for sake of killing, but in a righteous war, he incurs no sin. Having said this about reaching perfection through karma, so this was about karma yoga. Now Bhagavan talks about attaining perfection through Sankhya yoga or the Sannyas yoga. So there are different ways to reach the perfection. Some depend on what kind of swabhav we have. Our swabhav is for karma yogi swabhav, then we should do that way and we can reach perfection by doing our karma. But if our swabhav is more towards Gyan yoga, remember Bhagavan said in Srishti there are only two things. One is Gyan yogena, karma yogena. Karma yoga, he said karma is yoga and Gyan is Gyan. So there's two paths in this sansar. So in this next slok,
asakta buddhe sarvatra jitatma vigataspраha naishkarmya siddhim paramam sannyasenadhigacchati.
so if there is sin in every karma, the question arises, if there is sin in every karma, no matter how pious it is, then by doing karma one will be accumulating sins. One can say that. Therefore, it stands to reason that do not perform karma. Why should I perform karma? There is sin in every karma. But it is not so, since one cannot exist even for a moment without karma. You have to do karma. The sansar this creation is based on karma. The creation itself is karma. The nature of the creation is karma. So there is always karma going on. When the creation took place, there was karma. When the creation will dissolve, that will be also karma. In between there is karma. So you cannot get away from karma. So if somebody says, well, there is sin in every karma, why should I accumulate sin? That's not so. So perform karma with no attachment to it. What there is sin? Sin because we attach ourselves. I give you an example. I was talking to my neighbor. He worked for US Air Force. He says these soldiers who come back from Afghanistan from withdrawal, lot of them having lot of mental problems, PTSD. I thought about it. I say, reason they are having it because they were attached to what they were doing. If they consider, I am there as a soldier and my duty is to kill and fight, that's it. I'm not here to figure out what is right, what is wrong. I have my duty, my order is to do this. That's what I'm doing. I'm done. I get paid for. End of story. If you do that, you never have the problem. The soldiers will never have this problem. But the problem is they get attached. They go there, they see all those little kids and they're playing and they get attached to all this kind of stuff. They say, well, this person helped me, I need to help him. Now there is a problem because nothing happens perfectly in this sansar. There's always imperfection. So, Bhagavan Krishna says, do your karma, but don't get attached to it. Just do it as duty. Same thing he's telling Arjun. Do it as your duty. You are Kshatri, your job is to fight and do it, but do it in my names. That way you will not be attached to it. You see, you're not fighting to win or acquire something. You're fighting because I said to you to fight. So you're not attached anymore. Like Bhagavan told Arjun that do not think you are fighting to get the kingdom, but as your duty, and you are doing with my permission. So we, in every step in our life, we must seek Bhagavan's permission to do something. That's what this shlok is telling us. We must seek his permission to do something and say, I'm doing this, I have to do this, I'm doing it for you in your name. Then you don't have that smoke which comes before the fire. The smoke will be his problem and you will be benefiting from the fire and purifying yourself. So perform with Paramatma Buddhi, it is called Asakt Buddhi. When a karma is performed with Paramatma Buddhi, it is called Asakt Buddhi Sarvatra. That Buddhi is free of attachment everywhere in performing all karma and is Jitatma, who has won over his Atma, the man, the mind, and performing any karma, since in it there is selfishness, attachment, so he who has Asakt Buddhi becomes Jitatma, because he is not doing with his attachment to it, so he becomes Jitatma. He has conquered the mind. What makes us attached to something? It is our mind. Okay? Mind makes us attached to something. I want to do this. This is mine. This is this. I guess we have to restart. No. Okay. So asakt buddhi, the buddhi which doesn't have asakti. And with that buddhi, when you do jitatma, he has conquered his mind. And vigata spraha, his longings have disappeared. He doesn't long for anything in samsara. He is performing karma, but with no desire in for him. What happens to him, for this person? Adhigacchati. He attains, what does he attain? Nash karma sansiddhi paramam. The param nash karma siddhi. He has become nash karma. His mind is become nash karma, and the karma does not cause any sin to him. Sannyasin, through Sankhya Yoga. How did he attain that state? Through Sannyas Yoga. It is sannyas, since in it he has no selfish desire. What is meaning of sannyas? Sannyas means in which we have no selfish desire. So asakt buddhi, the same thing. Asakt buddhi takes us through sannyas yoga to Paramatma. Now Bhagavan says, one who attains Paramatma or Brahma, how he does that is what I want to tell you. Bhagavan says, I want to tell you how does he get to that state. So,
Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tatapnoti nibodhame samasenaiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya ya para.
Arjun, Bhagavan says, Arjun, now know from me only in brief, because there is no time there war is going to start. So he's telling in brief. The process through which man having asakt buddhi, the buddhi with no attachment, which is the highest consummation of Gyan Yoga. So Gyan Yoga, the ultimate in Gyan Yoga is asakt buddhi, attaining asakt buddhi. Our buddhi becomes such which has no attachment, no desire, no longing for anything. So, having asakt buddhi through Gyan Yoga, one reaches Brahma. Bhagavan says, Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, Jnanasya ya para nishtha, the supreme nishtha of Gyan, meaning the extreme faith in Gyan from which Siddhim prapto yatha Brahma, one attains the Siddhi of Brahma. So here it is clear that Brahm can be attained only through Gyan. If you read this properly, that's what it tells you. You can reach Brahm through Gyan. Now for those who have studied Brahm Vidyas, so Gyan, path of Gyan, the ultimate state is getting to Brahm. Okay? The path of Prem or Bhakti, it takes you to Prem, takes you to Ishwar, Ananda Swarup. So that's what he's telling here. That it is clear that Brahm can be attained only through Gyan. Yatha apnoti. And in what way he attains that Brahma? Sama senev nibodh me. I am now telling you in brief how he does that. So Bhagavan here is saying to Arjun that your supreme nishtha, paranishtha in Gyan, how you attain to Brahm, that I am describing to you in short. I would like to emphasize that with bhakti you can reach to Paramatma. But before endowing us with mukti, he imparts his Gyan. Without Gyan there is no mukti. So even in bhakti yoga, Paramatma will give us Gyan, so we can attain mukti. He imparts his Gyan so we can know what he is. Because without knowing what he is, how can we be one with him? We have to know who he is before joining him, become one with him. So he tells us. This is described in Shlok 54 and 55. Bhagavan says that first they practice my bhakti, then they know me by tattva, and after they will truly know me, this way he forthwith merges into my being. Once person knows, once a Jeev knows Paramatma up close what he is, then and only then merges with Paramatma. Bhagavan says that I gave him my bhakti, but there I gave him Gyan. Then I give him Gyan, because without it, without the Gyan, he will not be able to enter my being. So in the next 3 shlokas, Bhagavan describes the way in which one can become worthy of attaining to Paramatma through Gyan Yoga. Bhagavan has said that of the 4 goals of human life, which are Dharma, Artha, Kam and Moksha, the Siddhi of Brahma or Moksha is the ultimate goal. How one reaches that goal, I want to tell you now in short. Now you know from me the last step in the pursuit of Gyan and how one can get to it. Till now you have learned the fate of karma, karm gati. Where does the karma take you? That performing this his natural karma, be it that of a kshatri, a brahman, a vaishya, or a shudra, one can attain to the Paramatma, the Supreme Spirit. Gita says that by doing the karma of any of the four varna, one can get to Siddhi of Brahma. Bhagavan says that in my domain, the Brahma, these karma do not present an obstacle, but do these swabhavik karma in such a manner that they do not create bondage. If they create a bondage, then you cannot move forward. You will be stand still, or you will probably go backwards. You will stay where you are, or you may even go backwards. Because while Gyan brings one closer to me, the Agyan takes one away from me. Karma done as one's duty is not an obstacle in attaining to Brahma. By saying that the four varna are created by me, Bhagavan says that he can be attained to through karma of any of the four varna. This negates the caste system. When Bhagavan says any varna can bring you to me, that means there is no caste system. It is not acceptable to Bhagavan. Do the karma of any varna, but do with no attachment. This will keep the karma from causing bondage. If the karma is done with the desire for its fruit, and in it, if you win, you will feel pleasure. And in case of loss, there will be a feeling of pain. However, there is bondage in both. Whether you win, you feel pleasure, or you feel pain. The attainment of Brahma is same for all varna because the qualifications are the same. These are the following 3 shlokas. So next shlok is
Buddhya vishuddhaya yukto dhrityatmanam niyamya cha shabdadin vishayam styaktva ragadveshau vyudasya cha.
Buddhya Vishuddhaya Yukto. The first requirement, now we are talking about Gyan Yoga. First requirement is that the Brahma Gyani, with Gyan person wants to attain Brahma, should be endued, yukt, with a pure buddhi, Vishuddhaya buddhi, which is free from doubt and misconception and merged in Brahma through elimination of all alien attributes like deception and fraud, chal kapat. So buddhi has to be shuddha. What is shuddha buddhi? That these other alien elements don't even come into it. The buddhi should not even entertain at all what is chal kapat, what is deception, what it should be out of his nature. Okay? So that is Vishuddha Buddhi. No matter which world that Jnani belongs to, his buddhi should be pure. So that's first. Next, and the second characteristic or lakshan is dhratyatmanam niyamya. That with his tenacity, dhrati, tenacity, he keeps his atma in control. Here Atma means man. He keeps his mind in control. How does he do that? Atmanam niyamya. Whatever decision he takes, he keeps his Atma zeroed in on it. He doesn't waver from it. Keep it under control. He does not let the Atma waver. Here Atma encompasses the mind and senses. So this Brahmagyani, he controls his mind and senses and doesn't let them waver. He exercises restraint on senses and mind. In turn, what they do? They restrain the vasana. Once mind and senses are under control, then vasana is not there. What is vasana? Vasana is the unfulfilled desire that is so deep that it becomes a cause for us to return to samsara in the next life. That's how bad vasana is. The deep desire to get something and you didn't get it. So now you keep harping on it and your mind keeps going and taking you towards that and you end up going there in next life. So there is no mukti then. So the Brahmagyani keeps all his senses and his mind under his control. It doesn't let them go astray. Therefore, its destruction is imperative. Once the buddhi, vasana is there in us, then we cannot attain our goal. So one who having endued with Vishuddha Buddhi tenaciously exercises control over his Atma and thus protects them from the attractions of samsara. He may be of any varna, doesn't matter what varna he is in. He is worthy of the path to Brahma. So what he is doing? He is protecting, he is putting and he is enveloping his senses and his mind through jnana. Okay? He takes his jnana and jnana is like a cover. So the buddhi and the mind and senses cannot penetrate that cover of jnana. And that's how he keeps them under control. If you cover something with the lid, then nothing can get out of there. Same way he has got his jnana and he covers his atma and buddhi and everything with the jnana. And then they cannot go astray. Now having achieved this, what does he do? Shabdadin Vishayan Tyaktva. He has relinquished Shabd and other Vishaya. And Rag Dvesh Yuddhisa. He has completely destroyed the Rag and Dvesh. When the senses are under control and mind is under control, ultimately, with the Gyan envelope of Gyan, then there is no question of Rag and Dvesh. There will be no Rag and Dvesh. No liking or aversion. So next,
Vivikta sevi laghvashi yatavakaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupashrita.
Vivikta Sevi, he remains secluded, stays where there is no one around. See, if somebody around, there will be interaction. So he is Vivikta Sevi. He stays aloof. He is by himself. What else is his characteristic? Laghvashi. He His food intake is very little. Lag means small, ashi means food intake. So he doesn't eat much. He doesn't need to eat much. And is sattvic. He is sattvic. Yat vakya yamanasa. His speech is such, he speaks only what needs to be said. He doesn't speak any otherwise. What needs to be said, that's all he speaks. So he eats very little. He doesn't stay where there are a lot of people. He stays away from people. He eats very little and he speaks very little. Whatever needs to be said, that's all he says. He keeps his body, kaya, he keeps his body in control by doing only what needs to be done. And manasa, he keeps his mind under his control. And keeping all these under control, what he does? Dhyan yoga para nityam vairagyam samupashyata. He always keeps his dhyan at the feet of Paramatma. He is always worshipping Paramatma. This is in line with the slok 12 of chapter 12, where Bhagavan has said that Gyan is superior to Abhyas and Dhyan of my Swarup is superior to Gyan. So here, this person acquired Gyan through Abhyas and placed his mind in Dhyan of Paramatma. Vairagyam samupashyata. He has no liking for anything related to sansar. What is vairag? With rag. With rag is gone, attachment or liking. When liking is gone, dislike is gone also. So there is no rag, there is no dvesh. Anything related to sansar, he is aloof, he is away from it. What are other characteristics? These are continuing in the next slok.
Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuccha nirmama shanto brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Nimuccha. He renounces or forsakes ahankar, balam, darpam, kam, krodh, parigraham. What does he renounce or forsakes? Ahankar, ego. Balam, power. He doesn't exercise his power. Darpam, pride. False. Pride is always false. There is nothing like false pride. It's always false anyway. When you say pride, it's false pride. Kam, desire. Lust. Krodh, wrath or anger. And parigrah, accumulation. Unnecessarily accumulating things. He doesn't have anything which he doesn't need. Only little bit what he needs, that's all he has. He doesn't accumulate anything. We fail to realize that parigraha or accumulation is very cumbersome for the welfare of our Atma. We must realize that. We don't realize that we accumulate things. It's not good for the welfare of our Atma. More we keep accumulating, harder it will be to let go. In the end, we have to let go anyway. But if you keep accumulating, your mind will always be centered on what you have, what you own, what you accumulated. And in the end, you have to let go of it, and that will be painful. In the end, when we must let go, it will be painful to the mind, to the Atma. Atma will be in pain. It will not live peacefully. So, a jnani only accumulates what he needs to fulfill his duty not desire, his duties. Thus, he has no problem in moving on to another place. It is like renting things for the duration of our needs and then returning them. So, if we consider in our life, we are renting everything, it's not ours. And then we return it. Okay? Treat everything like it's a rental property, then you'll take care of it too. Otherwise, somebody will say, hey, you damaged it when you go to return. So you have to. This is what, if anybody has heard this bhajan of Kabir, Chadariya Jhini Re Jhini, दास कबीर ने ऐसी ओढ़ी ज्यों की त्यों धर दीनी. Okay? He got his body, chadar means his body. It's like rental to me. I am renting my body to do a job, to perform my duty, okay, of my karma. Once you start thinking that way, then your body is not yours. Right? So Das Kabir ne aisi ori jiyon ki tyon. He just returned it like in the same shape. It's not even used, abused or anything. That's what Bhagavan is saying here. And this way, one avoids having attachment to them. You won't even have any attachment to your body because it's not my body. It's given to me for a duration, for a certain work I have to do, duties I have to perform. That's all. Once we start looking at ourselves that way, then we start slowly, very slowly, we'll start detaching ourselves from ourselves. Detaching ourselves from ourselves. So in sansar, we only take what we need to fulfill our duty at that time and then return them to in the same condition. Then our leaving, which we have to do, will be painless. There is nothing that belongs to him. The Jnani understands nothing that belongs to him. He fulfilled his duty and rented what he needed to for the duration and returned it all at the end. So Jnani says, when I leave this body, it's not my body, I'm returning it to Prakriti. It came from Prakriti. Panch Bhut and 3 gunas, Ashtadha Prakriti, made this body. So I'm actually renting this body. And he says, I'm leaving this body to the Prakriti. Leaving everything to the Prakriti. An example of this is like the difference between the whole life and the term life insurance. I think you probably understand this better. If you need life insurance, take it for the duration, pay for it and be done. It is much cheaper also. Okay? So the Jnani, having forsaken all of his above, becomes nirmaha. Without mamata, nirmam, he has no mamata, or he is free from the notion of mind. Shanta, tranquil, not peaceful, tranquility. He gets tranquility in his mind, at heart, and thus Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. He attains the worthiness to become situated in the Brahm as one. He is not there yet, but he becomes worthy of being there. Now when he becomes worthy to be one with Brahm, then what will be the result in the next shloka.
Brahma bhutah prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param.
Brahma Bhuta, situated in Brahma as one, Brahma Bhuta. Brahma is there and Bhut means the Jiva Atma is there with Brahma. So Brahma Bhuta, Bhut in Brahma, situated in Brahma. Prasannatma, this yogi with tranquil mind or Atma, because now he has no bondage or attachments, nashochati, neither grieves of anyone or for anything, na kankshati, nor has any aspiration, akanksha, akankshati. This yogi having samah sarveshu bhuteshu, same bhav in all prani bhut, sarveshu bhuteshu, in all prani bhut, sama is, he is equal. Mad bhaktim labte param, he attains to my para bhakti. Okay, now he is getting into bhakti. Up until now, his bhakti was for fulfilling some desire. I want this from Bhagwan. I want this from Bhagwan. This work can get done. Please do it for me. No? So all his desires. But now his bhakti is para or nishkam bhakti. Now he came to know his original subhav. What is the mool subhav of Jeev? What is, when I say our or mine, I'm saying, I'm pointing to Jivatma. What is the subhav of Jivatma, mool subhav of Jivatma? He comes to know that. And that is bhakti of Parmeshwar. Then what happens to this yogi?
भक्त्या मामभिजानाति यावान् यश्चास्मि तत्त्वतः ततो मां तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशते तदनन्तरम्.
Now here, I'd like to explain something before going into this shloka. The para or nishkam bhakti is Ishwar Prem. Up until now it was Gyan. This para bhakti is Ishwar Prem. Now this bhakt sees Ishwar Sarup. One who gets the prem, he sees Ishwar Sarup. His astha ashta sabhav. When he gets para bhakti, he has no ashta sabhav. They go away. This is the state of prem, Ishwar prem. He doesn't need to eat, doesn't need to do any ashta sabhav, doesn't need to sleep or do anything. His body now runs on the prem shakti of Paramatma. This is the meaning of Yog Kshem. When Bhagavan said Yog Kshem Vahamyam, Ananyashchintayanto mam ye jana paripasate yog. So for them, unka Yog Kshem, I do it. So this is the state of para bhakti. That particular person, his Yog Kshem is done by Paramatma. So it's in Shlok 22 of chapter 9. He now says he stays alive on the Shakti of his Isht, Paramatma. So Bhagavan says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Through bhakti, he knows me exactly and completely. Abhijanati. He knows me exactly and completely. The primary characteristic of bhakti is that the bhakt knows Ishwar Sarup. That is the true bhakt. And now, what does he know? Yavan, how big I am. Anant, he knows that there is no end to me, how big I am. How far do I go? He can't tell how far, he knows how far he goes. And Paschyami, what am I? Tattvata, he knows through Gyan. Then Tato Mam Tattvata Gyatva. See, now here he knows through Gyan because Parmeshwar gives him Gyan. So he knows Paramatma. While he is looking at the Sarup of Paramatma, Sakshat, he knows now through Gyan. That's why he has to have Gyan. Having known me through Gyan, Vishate Tadanantaram, he immediately merges in me. Tadanantaram. Turant. He merges in me. He becomes one with my Sarup. What happens here is that Parmeshwar cuts through the avidya of Jeev and thus separates it from him. This is done by the Kripa Shakti of Parmeshwar. With his avidya removed, Jeev enters Ishwar Sarup immediately, instantly. The only badha, only obstacle of Jeev to go in Ishwar Sarup was avidya. So Ishwar takes the avidya out, cuts right through there. And now Jeev is right there and he becomes one with Ishwar. Now the next shloka.
सर्वकर्माण्यपि सदा कुर्वाणो मद्व्यपाश्रयः मत्प्रसादादवाप्नोति शाश्वतं पदमव्ययम्.
Here Bhagavan is saying that such a person, the Nishkam Karma Yogi, Kurvan api, also while performing Sarva Karmani, all the karma of sansar, and how he performs such karma. Mad Vyaprasha, Mad Vyapashraya, leaving everything on me. Ashraya means he is taking my support. He is leaving everything to me. That's how he is doing his karma. In other words, having taken refuge in me, sharan. For example, if he eats, he prays to me to purify the food, the an. That food I am taking, the food I am taking, which has been made sacred by thee. Mat prasadat avapnoti. By my prasad or grace, he attains to what? Shashvatam Abhyam Padam. He attains the eternal, immutable state. You see, eternal has to be immutable, otherwise not eternal. So it doesn't change at all. So it's eternal. So he enters that state. So in Shlok 50 to 56, Bhagavan has told us that whether a person performed the karma of any of the four varna to earn a living, by doing what he can attain to me, Bhagavan said that endued with pure bhakti, pure buddhi, he exercises restraints over his senses by controlling his mind, thus leaving aside objects of senses, the rag dvesh, and reducing his food intake to a minimum, exercising control over his body. He sits in solitude and remembers me through Gyan. He then develops Vairagya, leaving Ahankar, ego, Bal, Darp, all these things. He now becomes free of mamata. He has no attachment. This way, he becomes worthy of being Brahm. Then what he does, this we will take in the next time. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.